Now we're all here.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for waiting for us.
She's the best. I love that woman.
She bore
Kathy,
you.
You can call her with the roll instead of Lori.
Okay.
That'll make me laugh. All right, the regular board meeting of the Park District of Highland Park is called to order at 6:05 PM. Kathy, please call the roll.
Commissioner Bernstein?
Here.
Commissioner Grossberg?
Here.
Commissioner Janet Bernstein? Oh, sorry, I meant, Commissioner Flores Weisskopf will not be here tonight. Vice President Runtenberg?
I am here.
President Kaplan?
And I am here. We're good to go. Any additions to the agenda? Excellent. Any public comments on the things on the agenda? Okay, go ahead.
I spent part of the afternoon on Rosewood today, and it was absolutely glorious. The water was fabulous, the beach was beautiful, and it was wonderful.
However.
I have a problem. I'm a handicapped person, and to get down to the water in that sand, I sink into it, and it's very difficult to walk toward the water. As a child, I grew up in Michigan City, Indiana, and we lived on the water. And what we had was pieces of a ramp with a railing, and they would put those pieces toward the water, and then they would take them away, when they didn't need them. But it was the ability to get there without sinking into the sand. And it's for people who have difficulty getting down there. So that's my comment.
Mrs. Bernstein, there is a walking path that is a plastic sheeting that goes from the boardwalk down to the water.
I know, but that happens to be further down. And if you're handicapped, that's one of the problems.
It's too far to the south.
And this would not be a permanent structure, it would be pieces of structure that could be placed anywhere. It would be mobile.
Get on
You
that,
have to
Kim.
move the plastic.
Okay.
No conflict of interest.
It's called a Moby mat.
Then we might have to move the
It's an
Moby.
I thought we had
Accessible
more
mat.
than one. We didn't
No.
have, it's just the
Well,
one.
we have the Moby mat that provides access from the boardwalk to
Right.
the water. And then we also have some matting that provides access for handicapped to be closer to the volleyball experience. And then we have accessible surface at the playground.
But the beach was fabulous today.
Oh, good. Was it crowded?
Sure, went down there and had, spent time.
Oh, good. Okay. Anybody else? All right, next is the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Yes, I so move.
Someone want a second?
Second.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Bernstein?
Aye.
Commissioner Grossberg?
Aye.
Vice President Runtenberg?
Aye.
President Kaplan?
Aye. Thank you. Unfinished business, Highland Park Country Club grounds planning process overview.
So, we are here, and I say we because we have a collective team whom have been discussing the transition of the property at the Highland Park Country Club in the event that the Highland Park Country Club should close down, and the Park District's plan, in accordance with Greenprint, was to convert the property from a golf course to passive recreation, open space, trails, walking paths, potential for I mean, there's an endless list of things that can be done, but one of the things that we have talked about is that it's a very large property, and we needed to develop literally a plan to develop the plan. And so what we wanted to do tonight was to take this opportunity to present to you what we sort of call our plan to plan the plan. So I will continue with a couple of opening remarks, and then I'm going to turn it over to Rebecca. So as we know, in Greenprint, we had identified the Highland Park Country Club property. There's both the building component and then there is the golf course property. And one of the visions for the golf course property was that we would convert it to open space and passive recreation, which is part of the Greenprint goal. I think that one of the things that was, there were so many studies that were done in advance of Greenprint, but I think there were a couple of key studies that were done. Two really is one was the studies that were done to address the golf course issue. Should the community support 2 golf courses? Can the community support 2 golf courses? If the community doesn't support 2 golf courses, which one will it be? And if it's only 1 golf course, what do you do with the other golf course? And so from a golfing analysis, all arrows pointed to 1 golf course for golf. It was recommended that Sunset Valley be remain open and that property be converted, upgraded, renovated, and that the Highland Park Country Club then would be the course that was recommended for being shut down, and that the results of the transition of the property at Highland Park would be to open space. So the golf study definitely supported that, but then in addition to that, when the feedback that we got through the Greenprint process, in addition to the 2009 Community Attitude and Interest Survey that we did, that was then supported again by the 2013 survey that we did, really demonstrates that the community expresses a strong need for open space, walking and biking paths. In fact, 80% of the community rated walking and biking paths as a high need. And in fact, just looking down some of the survey results, 48% also supported the need for natural areas. So with the transition to the golf course property, we are able to satisfy those expressed needs. In addition, I mean, the slide says, I mean, this is an opportunity for the Park District. As you all know, part of our mission is to be stewards of the environment, stewards of natural areas, and this really provides us with a unique opportunity to plan some outdoor amenities for our community. But I think one of the things that was demonstrated, certainly this July, and certainly with previous rainfalls, was that there is still a need to improve stormwater management in this community, and that this property certainly provides that opportunity. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we get into the presentation from a planning perspective. So speaking of the planning perspective, the question is, how do we start? What should we be doing first? And there are a couple of things that we have talked about. I just talked about the opportunity to look at this property in terms of stormwater management. And I think that in our discussions amongst staff is that we've all agreed that probably one of the first steps would be to reach out to city, county, and federal agencies to determine if it is feasible to provide stormwater management. I mean, I think we all know it's feasible to provide stormwater management, but we're not engineers, so we'll need to engage in some professionals with partners to look at this stormwater management issue across the board. So that certainly is a first step, but a step just before that would be to, we think it's really important that we create a planning committee. Planning committee, task force, advisory, ad hoc group, whatever you want to call it, but that it should be made up of obviously representatives from the park board, park district staff. We should be reaching out to the city of Highland Park to get representation from either their council and or their staff. We also talked about reaching out to Lake County and see if they want to have any participation in the planning committee. And then there are certainly other stakeholders whom we could either ask to be on the committee, or we make sure that we engage them in some of the public seminars, which Amalia will talk about again as we get into the process. So it's really, I think we all have, we've demonstrated the need, certainly. There's certainly a great opportunity, and if given the green light, we would certainly want to get going on the planning, who's going to be involved in the planning, and really first to look at the stormwater issues, because if there was to be some change, for example, there's a large pond on the 10th hole right now. If that were to expand or be expanded, it might impact some of the plans for around that area that are not there now. So this is just, we think that this is a good direction to take in getting started. So that's really why, and initiating the planning committee. And now Rebecca will get more in detail into what planning entails.
Thank you. So in this kind of conservation or open space planning, the site and its surroundings are really the context in which we work. So we would point out the adjacencies of this property that we're talking about to Skokie River Woods, the wetland restorations that's been done there, its connectivity to the recreation center, and existing trails that you can see on the east side in the white dots that do connect our pedestrian or bike traffickers from Park Avenue up to Route 22. Those are some of the opportunities, some of the things that might be not exactly limitations, but certainly boundaries are the conservation easements that exist on this property that require essentially passive recreation uses and certainly do limit the types of development that can be done on it. And then, of course, it's in the Chicago River floodplain, and that comes with its own set of regulatory and permitting issues to work with, but also opportunities, as Liza was saying, to help try to perhaps mitigate some of the flooding that does happen in that area. So what does a plan like this look like? We really, as a district, haven't done this kind of planning in a long time. This is talking about the land and its and what it is providing you in the way of habitat. It's looking at trails and amenities for enjoying those kinds of outdoor experiences. The depiction here is for Buffalo Creek Preserve, which is one of the Lake County Forest Preserve District properties. That's a master plan that was created by Hay and Associates. And as you can see, it shows this mosaic of how the land fits together with amenities and how trails get carried across in a safe, accessible way. This is all based on an analysis of the site conditions and community interest, stakeholder participation. What is it going to do for us? First and foremost, we will address the community interest and concerns. First of all, our interest in passive open space and recreation, but certainly safety, privacy, maintenance for our neighbors. The planning process will involve a site analysis that will look at soils, wetland delineation, topography, the sorts of things that we need to know partly for permitting and partly to place habitat properly. Wetland delineation will determine where the boundary of the wetlands lie and is submitted to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers so that you can begin the permitting process. We would be identifying passive recreation amenities that will help people enjoy the outdoors. And we will be looking at the best trail routes. We've already done a bit of work in that direction, but the idea is to look for the use of existing paths to be cost effective, to be environmental, to stay out as much as possible of the floodway that exists on the property, and to, of course, make them accessible. So we envision, or we have flighted out, a three-phase process, given the budget that we've been provided, and also the framework that we're provided from Greenprint. So phase one is this planning process that we've been talking about. We begin with engaging our stakeholders, reaching out to the community, other public agencies. Liza has described that, and Amalia will shortly talk a little bit more about our community engagement path. We would immediately start reaching out on that topic of stormwater management. We would be looking to hire our professionals who will help guide us through public outreach and also help us do this site analysis that needs to be conducted. So wetland delineation, geotech investigation, drainage investigation, all the kinds of things that are in the land that we need to know about before we can start putting pen to paper. I'll point out that the wetland delineation kind of drives some of the timing too. We can do some preliminary analysis without a thorough investigation, but in Lake County, wetland delineation has to be done in the growing season. So that's why we envision this as a first-year process. And finally, while the course is being planned for, we have to continue to take care of it. So in our framework, we have allowed for maintenance in that first year and what that might look like. Phase 2 then, after completing our public input sessions, doing our due diligence on the land, having conceptual plans vetted in the community, we are thinking then to development, because we want to give you a complete picture of what it's going to take to get to that vision, to fulfill that vision. So the things that we have accounted for in our framework are accessible trails that would link the Skokie River Woods to that north-south bike trail that I showed you, and help us move our people from the rec center up into those areas. Creation of naturalized habitat, including seeding with native plants, installation of live plants, and a bit of shoreline naturalization. Again, we're kind of envisioning what these things might look like and putting some cost to them with the help of Hay and Associates with our past master planning process that we did from Skokie River Woods. So these are engineered costs with contingencies and all of that good stuff. We also made an allowance for other amenities to be determined through our planning process. Maybe there are benches, maybe there are bike racks, fishing docks, I don't know, but we've allowed some money for that. And I would point out that that is also a place where you can start thinking about leveraging that money for grant funding, right? So you can't do that unless you have an idea of what you're committed to. And then, once again, maintenance, that second year, let's say, of keeping the trails mown. We would see keeping a 10-foot buffer on either side of the path so that people would feel that we were attending these areas. That actually is Gallery Park in Glenview. And if you have a chance to walk over there, as I did yesterday to take that picture, gosh, it's amazing. People are out there. It was 2 in the afternoon, walking, biking, just enjoying that area. And it gives you a sense of what this could be like. I would really encourage a field trip. And then finally, once that development phase is completed, we can't walk away, obviously. We are going to maintain it, but in the first 3 years, you really need to maintain some of those plantings, particularly to make sure that they get established. We have this saying, first year sleeps, second year creeps, third year leaps. You kind of got to give the thing a few years in order to reach its abundance. So we've provided for that as well. And of course, in the longer term, maintenance would be coming out of operational budgets. Amalia will now talk to us a little bit about how we engage the community in this process.
Don't go too far.
I volunteer.
Thanks, Rebecca.
Put my hand on it.
So both Liza and Rebecca have mentioned that community engagement is a important piece of this project. So this slide is to help emphasize that and to let you know what we're thinking with that, with our engagement strategies. So Liza talked a little bit about this engaging of our partners and stakeholders in a collaborative planning advisory committee. Again, we can call it what we want, but the idea is to bring together local, regional stakeholders to start thinking about the design, thinking about the opportunities of that site, and so that we have all of those players at the table to make sure that we're benefiting the community as a whole. But that's not to say that we're leaving out residents or that we're not going to be doing a larger public experience. So that will be coupled with a series of public meetings. We're looking into demonstration events. So bringing residents, bringing different stakeholders out onto the site so that to experience what it could be, to have the opportunity to provide feedback while actually walking through the site to get a feel for it. So we're playing around with the idea of what those look like. But the idea is to really engage not only through a public meeting setting like this, but also to bring residents and stakeholders out onto the site to see what that feels like. We're looking at public comment periods, so if you can't make a meeting, if you can't make one of our events, holding these open public meetings so that we're available and taking in comment. And then, of course, creating opportunities for plan review so that our stakeholders, the residents, community, are all involved throughout the design process at every step, so that everyone feels that they've seen the plan throughout design and have had the opportunity to provide feedback. The idea is to make this a community project to provide a sense of ownership, and that this is really a response to some of the surveys and the studies that Liza mentioned earlier.
So,
It's a tag team.
it is.
Yeah.
Takes a village. So at any rate, Rebecca is going to pull up the slide that talks about the budget, because as you know, we had money allocated in green print for this project, and I think that we'll be able to demonstrate that from planning through implementation and maintenance, initial maintenance in the first couple of years, we're able to complete this project within the parameters of the budget. So do you just want to touch on that now, and then we'll talk about
Certainly.
next steps?
Yep. So we've been working with a number of $1.4 million. And you know the origin of that, I believe. So we backed our way out of that number, essentially. As I mentioned, we had engineering costs for trail work from Hay and Associates that involved this property. So we used those numbers, and then we worked with them to expand the idea of that to encompass the whole property and a public process of stakeholders helping us with the conceptual designs. So phase one of planning is our master planning and design process. I can't read that from here. I'm gonna give myself my notes. Public outreach. Hey, come on, you know. Site investigation that we mentioned, design and construction documents. So these involve all kinds of contingencies and all of those design costs that might get involved, plus a little bit of cushion for design development. And then the stewardship that we mentioned, maintaining the landscape areas through mowing and implementing some of our ideas about a public opening. Our phase two development then, the construction costs that we've included here are for a trail accessing from Skokie River Woods across the country club to the east, a bit of shoreline restoration, amenities to be determined, and landscape maintenance again. And then separately, the work that would be done on native plantings, site preparation, materials and installation. So clearly that's where the largest chunk of the money falls. Then finally, in maintenance, we allowed for 3 years of $100,000 maintenance costs, and we're hopeful that there is some cushion in there so that we'd be able to, follow up with additional ideas that may come up.
Yeah, and I think that one of the things that, when we've heard people talking about this project, is that there's been concern that, oh my gosh, well, this is a 5-year plan. It really isn't. It really is, and we're estimating, I think if we get the green light to begin planning the property, I think that roughly speaking, we're probably looking at a year at most for the planning process. And then the actual development, the actual restoration work can be done within a year. And then there will be higher maintenance costs for the first couple of years of the project. And then it would just become operational maintenance. And again, it's important to note that all of the plantings and the materials that we are using are meant to be low maintenance. You'll see demonstrations of that on the golf course. So
I have a question for you. You mentioned a couple of weeks ago that you were able to tour the country club that closed,
yes.
and you said you learned some valuable lessons.
Well, actually, what we learned it was interesting to be able to see a live golf course that has gone dormant.
Yeah, it was a great idea to go. and
Well,
to
we
do
got
that.
lucky on that one. And, but the interesting thing is that golf course, so we went in early September, if my memory serves me correctly. They stopped maintenance in June, and I'm looking, there was a entourage of Park District staff that went on this trip because we're all so curious. So they stopped applying chemicals in the spring, so we got to see what it looks like. And we have a series of questions that we had sent back to the people who are responsible for that property right now. We're still waiting for some responses, but I think it did not look, it didn't look too bad because it hadn't been dormant for that long. I think one of the things that we know immediately is that we are going to need a mowing contractor to come out and just mow to keep the grass maintained. You know, we have that property when you look out of the rec center, because we want to have decent views for not only our patrons in the rec center, but for any banquets in 18. There's that, probably from the clubhouse out to the gazebo, to be able to continue to maintain that. And I think that we will be able to do that. It's not going to be an outrageous expense for basic maintenance. So I think we're very confident that we are not going to let this property turn to weeds and rot and all of that, that we have the tools to maintain it properly without going over the top. So from that perspective, there are still more we want to learn, but we're waiting to get some of our questions answered. So I think we're comfortable with that. So at this juncture,
Excuse me, can I ask one question of Rebecca, please?
oh, sure, you can ask as many.
Maybe two. After year 3, if you were to guess, we have operational maintenance is what the term was used. Do we have any idea of what the kind of budget for that might have to be? Because this is going to be a budget that's going to go on for forever.
To be honest, I would be kind of guessing, so I hesitate, but I know that the mowing cost came in, we allowed $20,000 for that kind of maintenance
Annually.
annually. I know that we spend probably 15 to 20 on natural areas maintenance at some of our larger properties. So that's not unreasonable to add those two together, perhaps.
So if we wanted to project to the future, because this will be going on forever, if we said $50,000 plus minus for every year.
Sure.
To provide a magnificent benefit to the community. That's what it comes down to.
It's a leading question, sir.
Yes, it was. I have no shame about that.
12-inch or 16-inch?
Right. But I think a lot of, I think it's manageable maintenance, but until we really know, like, we know the natural areas, and we know that half the property is natural areas, and we know how to develop natural areas. Then there's the other half of the property that will really be more the open space, and will we be having picnic areas? These are the things that we need to understand from the community, and that will help us understand better what that half of the property would look like. But basic mowing, that will be an obvious expense. And then, so I think we're pretty comfortable operationally going forward. It's just, and so at this juncture, we're happy to entertain any more questions you guys have of what we've talked about tonight, if there's more information that you need, but this is really what we envision as really planning the vision.
Well, I've already volunteered myself as one of the people on the committee. I think Brian wrote down my name.
That's what you asked me to do?
I'd be interested as well, but I don't know how many people we want to have do it, but,
You can only have 2.
Yeah,
We'll talk about that later.
yeah.
But-
I do have go ahead.
Okay, I have a couple questions. Is this the presentation that's going to be made to the council on October 9th?
this is what we vision.
That's fine. I think it's comprehensive. I think it's visionary. So I don't have any additions, or I wouldn't want to make any modifications. I think this is perfect. It's perfect time. So I think it's great.
And that's, we kind of looked at this as the dry run for
Okay,
that, and
great.
to make sure that we're not missing anything.
With regard to the budget, I don't see any allocations for any contingency. Was that contemplated to know?
Yes, in the construction, there are contingencies included.
Okay, so in that 920,000.
Yep.
With regard to the master planning and design, are we going to do that in-house, or are we contemplating hiring a third party?
We are planning to hire someone.
Okay,
A firm that would be probably engineering-based, but with a background in open space planning.
So we'll actually get a document, a master plan for
Yes.
the whatever park this is. And I also, and with regard to demo, is that in the construction budget also? Because we're going to have the demo of the sand traps and things like that.
We do not at the moment plan to demo the sand traps, but there is money allocated for work on the trails.
That's
and
the
any-
seal coat,
Or
there's a lot of some of those
in case any of them, in case the main path needed to be
Yeah,
repaired.
because some of those cart paths are in pretty bad shape. So I can envision that there could be a fairly large capital expense just to repair those, and then probably, similar to what we're doing to Sunset, we're not replacing all of the cart paths, but we're repairing where necessary, we're installing where new where necessary, and then we're seal coating the rest to make it look new, so.
But before we get that far, Cal, for something like this, we may make a decision that you don't want to use asphalt.
Okay.
And that's absolutely true. These are things we're going to have to look at.
That'd be part of the planning group, we'll
Yeah,
deal with that.
yeah.
And lastly, I think that, and I don't want to overwork the efforts of our foundation, but if there's a project that has our foundation's name written all over it, this is it, because I can envision naming rights, I can envision a lot of different things that we could tap into, and I know that we have two very diligent, hardworking liaisons to our foundation committee, and I'm sure that they're going to take this and run with it, and if I can give them any assistance, I'm sure they don't need it, but if they need anything, I'll be available, make myself available.
Give Lori that mission.
Yeah. I think we have, who's that?
I am.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Terry and Lori.
Okay, I didn't know that, so I'm sure they'll do an excellent job, but this has it all written over, and I think
Okay.
that's,
But of course, keep in mind, Cal, and I agree with you about the foundation, these are budgeted funds.
Mhm.
So.
we may be able to supplement them with
anything
foundation
we
money.
can- anything we can do.
And depending upon what feedback from our stakeholders is in terms of the community and what they may want, you can go as grand as having paddle boats out there, but a lot of that would be precipitated by what happens if
With
we're
stormwater.
getting into pond expansion.
Yeah.
And I want to be clear that our plan, our vision, and certainly incorporated the natural areas, we are not, there is no pond expansion in the vision of our plan. That's where we look to partners, because our mission is providing recreation and managing open space. There are other units of government whom are responsible for stormwater management. That's why we'd like to reach out to them as soon as possible.
And I would suggest if this is going to be presented to the council on October 9th, that we should at least have little vision in this, is that I think that the access to this, especially from automobiles, people parking, is going to be strictly and solely from Park Avenue, that there will be no parking areas along 22, because I know the people in the Legacy Club will be concerned that if we create this, and then all of a sudden, it's going to create a traffic issue on the north side of the property, which obviously is not our intent. And I think that if we're
Finish the thought, but I want to add a thought. to
I mean, I don't anticipate adding a parking lot so this can be accessed from the north side. I don't think that's our intent. I think we should emphasize that, because I don't want to scare the Legacy people that all of a sudden think that it's going to be an active park access on off of 22 to get to this.
However, we should, as we engage with the city, consider the fact that they own property that has access to this from 22.
That's but not parking.
They have a pretty big field there that they might be using.
Okay,
On the
well,
west side?
but not near the Legacy Club.
No, we're
No,
not.
I want to make sure that that's clear. And if anything, lastly, two more things. With regard to the survey, which was last done in 2013, I know that we have discussed in the past that we are going to maybe go out and update our surveys. I thought maybe after 5-7
I
years.
think we're looking at 19? 19.
Okay, that just
Yeah.
triggered that thought.
Yeah.
And lastly, I think that after the presentation to the council, that we may want to post this on our website.
Okay. Well, this particular presentation will be on our website tomorrow.
Oh, fair enough. You guys, great minds think alike. Thank
I
you.
do have an additional question.
Go ahead.
So one of the questions, or one of the critiques we've been getting from some people is, how do we differentiate this from Heller, from some of our other properties? So I'm not suggesting you answer that right now, but perhaps we can formulate our strategy when it comes. I'm a big fan of this. But I think we do have to think about that. There's some people that all they think of is the income that we're losing by doing this, and we have to give them a reason to say yes and to love this. And just to have that, because I bet we're going to have some probers on the city council that are going to want to know, because that's already come up.
So the property's unique equity.
Well said.
I think that it would be offhand the connection to the recreation center and the possibility for that kind of fitness programming that does not exist elsewhere. I will write that one down too.
I would also say the biggest bonus of this property really is the stormwater management relief. Huge.
Yeah. And if we could put a dollar figure on what it's saving other people that this happens, or from, right, is that a thing?
That's where we need that, we need engine, that's,
Right,
yeah, we
right,
need
right.
engineers
Some
for that.
engineering.
But that's another good PR.
We're ways away from that.
Yeah, but really, this property provides that opportunity, and there is not another piece of property in this community like that, that has that opportunity to really make a difference.
Mhm.
And I'm not an engineer, but we know, golf courses, I mean, generally speaking, a lot of them are used to hold water. And I've recently heard of some that were shut down intentionally to hold water in some of the flood-ravaged communities of the south.
The gentleman helped us with Greenprint with the engineering. What was his name again? He's a Highland Park resident.
Oh, Don Matthews.
Have you talked to Don Matthews at all about this? I know that we're always interested in asking for, freebies, and if we can at least get some feedback from him, because obviously he's very familiar with the site. He's familiar with the issues of the site. He just did this for the Pogo building.
Yeah,
provided the engineering for that.
Gaywald Hamilton is our engineer for Pogo and Sunset Valley.
So maybe if we have before October 9th, at least have an idea of what possibly can be done there for stormwater. Not saying how we pay for it, how we do it, what we do, but just
I think we got, I'm not going to put Kevin on, we actually had sort of that behind on a cocktail napkin, I'll use that, of really what you could do from an engineer,
What
but
the
we
possibilities
can
are.
talk to Don
Yeah,
as
see if we
well.
get what the possibilities are, what this property can, what kind of benefits that can reap. I know we're on tape, and we will eventually retain him if necessary, but.
Okay.
I
Got
don't
it.
want to get in trouble again. So.
Okay,
All right, anybody else? Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is the treasurer's report. Ms. Curtis?
Hi.
So with my treasurer's report tonight, I'd just like to bring you up to date on the Briargate TIF and then our budget process. One of the tasks of the advisor committee, which the Park District was a member of, was to communicate to the city what the Park District would like to see in terms of an intergovernmental agreement related to this Briargate TIF. So 2 points were communicated to the city. One, discuss benchmarking, and that benchmarking at various intervals with actions to be taken if the development does not meet the expectations, or if it meets the expectations prior to the TIF's maturity. So if the TIF is underperforming or overperforming, some benchmarks be discussed in the intergovernmental agreement with specific actions to be taken. And then the other suggestion that was made by the Park District to the city regarding the intergovernmental agreement was if the Solo Cup property, which is included in the boundaries of the TIF, were to be developed as a residential area, the Park District would like to see an appropriate sized park developed in that area. So that was our communication.
And I do want to just add, that was what was discussed. This TIF
Yes.
was discussed at the Finance Committee. So I just want to make sure that those were the recommendations
Is the
from the
Solo
Finance
Cup
Committee.
property Highland Park District property?
It's
It's
in-
in the.
It's within our
it's in-
boundaries.
It's in Highland Park or Deerfield?
It's in Highland Park.
Oh, it is, okay,
Yes.
so, okay.
So the entire, as far as I know, the entire Briargate boundaries for the TIF fall within the Park District's boundaries.
Even the stuff that goes into Deerfield? Or none of it's in Deerfield?
Well, it's not, none of it is in Deerfield.
No,
There's an
Deerfield
overlap with
schools.
the schools.
The schools,
school
yes.
the
That's where I'm
elementary school
getting,
Yeah.
that's
districts
where I'm getting.
have
Got
a
it.
different set of boundaries, and so they're looking at it a little differently than we are.
So if I can just follow up a little bit, I talked to somebody last week that was in on some of these meetings, and there's a lot of pushback from 113, is that right?
112.
113.
No, I think it's
113's taking the lead on it.
And do we know, like, how far along the city is in this process? Are they going to push forward?
It was on their agenda last night at the
Yeah.
council. I think
Sorry,
they go waiting.
I interrupted, and that's.
You guys have already gone
she's-
through my second and my third
Oh,
sentence.
sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just there last night.
Were you there last
Yeah,
night?
yeah.
Okay, I did not attend, so please correct me if I misstate anything.
It was on the consent agenda, so they didn't say anything.
Oh, they didn't say
Yeah,
anything?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I did attend the committee of the whole meeting, which was on September 11th, where they did discuss the TIF. Bill James, the consultant that they had hired to review and determine if Briargate was even eligible for a TIF, gave his presentation and explained to the city council the whys that it does fit the qualifications for being a TIF area, and then he advised that they take the next step in the process, which they did yesterday evening, which was passing the ordinance establishing an interested parties registry. So that's what was approved yesterday, and basically that allows anybody in the community who is interested, an interested party, to register, so any information going forward about the TIF will be sent to them. And then if they continue on with the process, moving forward, there will be a joint review board meeting, which a date has not been scheduled yet, but it should happen between October 27th and November 3rd. And that is, that meeting gives the taxing districts, which would be us, within the TIF boundaries, an opportunity to discuss the TIF with the city and potentially raise any concerns that we might have at that time. And then if they continue down the road, there will be a public hearing on November 27th, and then the adoption of the ordinance on December 11th. And this TIF will essentially freeze the tax base of that Briargate area for the tax year 2017, which would immediately affect our collections in 2018. So that is the update there. And then in terms of our budget, the budget process is well underway. Tomorrow, the last departments will be presenting their budget to Liza and myself. And 2018 is shaping up to be continuing as a building year with the completion of POGO and then, of course, the Sunset Valley course and the clubhouse. So some dates to keep in mind. October 4th, we have scheduled a Finance Committee meeting at 8 in the morning to review the 5-year capital plan. And then that plan will be presented at the October 10th workshop.
We'll send notice of,
Can you send me a link? I mean, I like
Yes,
a meeting
yes,
thing,
we
so
will.
I can
Yes.
put it in it.
And then
I forgot to put it in there.
on October
put it on my phone.
26th, Liza and I have tentatively scheduled, but I'm looking for confirmation and don't have to do it right now.
What was that?
For the October 26th in the morning for the Finance Committee meeting to review both the levy and the budget. And then that,
October 26th, yeah. I'm going to be at the World Series the next week, so that's okay.
actually, I ran into the same problem last year. I enjoy running into this problem.
God willing.
Did I say that? Did I say that out loud?
No.
Where are we
Okay.
going for this year?
Cleveland again.
Okay.
I already made my reservation.
So the goal is to have the budget and the levy presented at the November workshop for the board. I don't have any other comments, except to say that the bills and the payroll that are presented tonight for approval are checks written from August 19th through September 21st, and they total $2,120,634.
Thank you.
53 cents.
And 53 cents, thank you very
We
much.
approve them.
Okay. Are we good?
We're good.
Anybody have any questions? Okay, thank you. Meeting invites will be going out.
Thank you.
Mr. Carr? Splash pad, emergency repairs.
So throughout as the season progressed at Hidden Creek, staff started to notice that we were having some challenges with some of the features. So we started to do a little bit of an investigation toward the end of the season on why that might be occurring. But to do a full analysis, we did have to wait till the end of the season. So at the end of the season, staff looked into these issues a little bit further. We were able to determine that what we thought was potentially some leaking occurring under the splash pad. So to confirm that, we did bring in two plumbing companies so that they could scope the lines. Specifically, the areas that we got scoped was at the main line that goes to, let's call it the main feature, where the big bucket is. So that main line was the line that was scoped, and both companies came back with confirmation that there are at least two leaks in that line. One of them where the lines kind of come together, that they're separated. You can tell that there's some dirt and some rock that have filled into that line. And then closer to where the line comes to a point where it separates out to the rest of the features. Those are two areas they seem, through the scoping, very certain there are leaks. There could be additional leaks that we're uncertain of right now, but those have to obviously be repaired. And in order to do that work, they're going to have to tear up the concrete and get in to service those lines. So because of that, we are requesting approval from the board to waive the competitive bidding process for procurement of emergency repair. The reason for that is the timing. So that we can get a company in to get in to do the work, to backfill, to level, to pour concrete, and then as you know that the pad itself does have a special rubberized poly surface that takes a time for that concrete to cure before we can even put it on. So we'd actually wait until the spring to do that work. But we'd like to get the leaks repaired and the concrete done so that it can be prepared to be resurfaced in the springtime, so that the pad can open up on time
Mitch, are they going to dig up the entire concrete, or wherever there's piping, they'll just run along the piping and dig it all up?
So basically, we will be exposing the main line as well as their, so basically there's this main line that goes in to service the main feature, and then another line that goes to service 17 other small lines. And so while we're in there, We want to make sure that any other leak that could be there can be taken care of. But in lieu of going through probably 2 to 3 days of scoping 17 small lines, we're going to be really close to exposing those lines anyways. We'll expose those lines and make sure there's no leaks there. Just take care of both if we need to.
Oh, wait, we don't.
I
Well,
understand.
the splash pad is the newest feature.
Yep.
How old is it?
It's 3 years old.
Is there any warranty on it?
Well, so this line is the older of the line. So
Okay.
this goes to the main feature that's been there. We
Not-
don't, yeah,
Not
we
the new part.
and we don't know if those lines do. We will do the analysis while we're there to make sure there's no leaks in those lines, but the one that we know there's a leak is an older line.
Okay. Do we know how it became damaged?
Until they get in there, it's a little unknown. We can tell that basically where the two lines would come together has definitely separated. But that would be, could be years and years of just finally
Freezing point.
separation
Right.
of those lines. But once we get in there, we'll know a lot more.
All right. Anybody else?
Well, it's just, I was just wondering what the difference is. This is my first time again. This is education for me. Having a no bid, you're saying, what is the difference in terms of the price that we could expect? I mean, is there a way to estimate that? And timing. I guess what's the essential difference if someone's going to, good. I guess that's my question.
So if we went through a bid process, we would have to develop a bid packet. We'd have to post the bid. There's a defined amount of time of, is it
10
10
business
days? We would have a bid opening. We would analyze those bids. We would select the lowest responsible bid. All of that time would probably push us well into late October, early November. Getting all of that repair done and then hoping that we could lay the concrete is why we're most concerned. If we can't lay the concrete before it gets too cold, then we're waiting till spring. We're then waiting on weather potentially in the spring. There's a 30-day cure period before we can then relay that top coat for the splash pad, and that's why it becomes more of an emergency issue for us now. I mean, it doesn't seem like it because we're not opening till
No?
6 or 7 months from now, but it's all about timing with some of the concrete and the splash pad
Right.
repair.
And so, I don't know, is there a way to guess the savings we would reap by waiting, by putting it up for bid?
There's no way of knowing.
And then there's no way of knowing.
There's no way of
So,
We have to just go to responsible, based on their experience, a responsible plumber who they believe is fair and reasonable and who's they've worked with in the past.
Yeah, and we are
Is that right?
using a local
Yes.
plumber
Yeah.
who is very familiar with, I mean, we've worked with a lot, so we're confident that he will give us his best price given the circumstances.
And my
And
question,
we know him, and we know his work.
Yeah.
my question is, do we need, with the motion to approve, do we need to make a specific finding in order to waive the competitive bidding process?
No, we just ask you to pass the resolution that is attached that allows us to go forward with the
So,
work.
so you're saying at any time, without even a reason, we can waive the competitive bidding process?
No, there has to be a reason,
And they're
and
spelled
I
out.
believe
Oh, they are?
it's spelled
Okay.
out in the
Okay, so then-
resolution, yeah.
Okay, so that by adopting the resolution, we're making those findings that those standards in order to waive the competitive bidding process have been met.
You did the same thing, if I'm not mistaken, when we removed the Sleepy Hollow Bridge, because it was an emergency.
Okay, okay.
And so, actually, I think because it had to be done immediately because of safety, you came back and ratified
And-
that.
So we have to declare an
Action.
emergency, I see.
Yes.
Okay, give me a second to read this, so.
and while he's doing that, so do we, is it, I'm reading that now, I just must have missed it. Is there an estimated price? Do we know what something like this is going to cost?
Yeah, we have, and so the company that we're working with has given us an estimate of and this is just for the plumbing repair, not the concrete work. They won't do the concrete work. We'll have to bring somebody else in for that, but of around $25,000. They're basing that only on the scoping. So obviously, if they open it up and it's not quite as bad, it might be a little less, but they're also being conservative because it could be areas they haven't scoped yet. There may be additional leaks.
Because when they're going to do it, they're going to open up and go into the branch
Yeah,
lines.
I get it. So budget-wise, this isn't, How do we feel hearing this?
We're not thrilled.
It could be worse.
Could be worse.
We could be replacing a bridge.
We had a better year at Hidden Creek than we
Yeah.
thought.
Yeah, that's
I noticed that, your numbers were up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We kind of plan for these types of things.
These are called emergencies.
So this is, when I'm looking at the capital fund, I kind of have it we have it in the back of our minds that these things are going to come up time to time again. So
So-
from a budgeting standpoint, this is a
Can I make a motion?
So the consensus of the board is that, based on Mitch's testimony, and this is really testimony that he's giving tonight, is that there's an emergency circumstance present in this location due to the fact of the oncoming winter. That winter is coming. Okay, so the winter is coming, and as a result, in order to be able to open on time, that emergency situation exists, that we have to do this as soon as possible. Is that the consensus of the board?
Yes.
Very good.
I'd like
Okay.
to-
Is there a motion to
I so
approve
move.
Resolution 17-03?
I move to approve.
I already did.
Oh, second.
Okay, vote? Or do we all?
I think we should
I
take
think
it.
Roll
We should roll call out.
Okay,
call.
all right. Commissioner Bernstein?
Aye.
Commissioner Grossberg?
Aye.
Vice President Ruttenberg?
Aye.
President Kaplan?
Aye. All right, you got
Thank
it.
Thank you.
They're going to sing in the shower again.
There's no shower bed.
I'm sorry.
We had the opera singer last week.
Okay, Mariana, Jessica, you ready? Camp 2017.
Summer's coming.
After the winter. That's-
Summer's
what we say in
here, what are you talking
recreation.
about?
But the winter could last 1,000 years.
Right. Well, thank you for having us. We are here to present the 2017 camp report. We had a wonderful 2017 camp season. Before we jump into the specifics of the report we gave to you guys in your board packet, we do have a video to show you the highlights of our 2017 camp.
Okay, I'll say it in Cal style. What numbers? Talk to him. Wait, come here. Just tell Bonnie what you just said. I don't want to disagree with what you just said to me. Yeah, my golf guru. Is that Dr. J in there? What is he?
I can't.
I look like him.
Well, that's fun.
Yeah, because it's that for that.
I'm still looking for my kid in these pictures. I don't think I'm gonna see.
Which camp?
My kids are 21 and up. I'm still looking.
That would be funny.
Where are they fishing for? Where was that?
That was
Winthrop Harbor.
Really? The salmon fishing? Oh, cool.
they love it.
Captain Bob.
My nephew goes to that
Yeah.
camp. He's obsessed.
scuba diving? Wow, which camp is that?
Truckers.
Only
Wow,
the-
is that cool?
Only the finest.
Yeah. Great
Very
pictures.
nice.
Thank you. So as you can see, we provided campers with an extraordinary camp experience. We had 1,075 campers in 25 different camps in 2017. Among those campers were 53 scholarships through our Smile Grant and Aid Fund, which is up from last year. Our marketing campaign kicked off in September. The theme was Find Your Camp, and it had individual camp videos and life-size posters where kids and adults and pretty much anything got to pop their head into the posters, take pictures, and they were encouraged to post it online with our hashtag Find Your Camp. It was a wonderful campaign by our marketing department. Our registration opened November 9th, and we had 120 registrants on the first day of camp registrations. And then in January, we had our camp reunion, where we invited our past and current campers to a glow-in-the-dark party at the Recreation Center of Highland Park with with a DJ party, swimming at the pool, inflatables, and food.
Yep. So the recreation team worked really hard to recruit 200 qualified candidates this year to run our camps. And we started off our camp in-service training with a motivational speaker, Ian Hill, who had the message of a summer to change the life, and really got counselors inspired and got them thinking about how they could be an influential role model to our campers this summer.
One of the initiatives of the Park District staff this summer was to improve communication with parents and participants. We kicked that off with a new redesigned parent camp manual, which was distributed to all of our camps and gave consistent information to all parents regarding. It didn't matter which camp they went to; they just got all the same. Couldn't get it out. They
It's
just got
easy
the
for you to
same. The same information throughout, so we gave a lot more consistent information throughout the Park District. And we actually added parent meetings to all of our camps this summer, so it helped parents and campers, get all their questions answered before camp started. Also new this summer, to get all those first day jitters out, we started the camp season with a pre-camp event that welcomed all of our campers and their families to come to Hidden Creek Aqua Park and splash into camp. That was the name of the event, where they got to meet the staff, socialize with each other, eat some barbecue by the pool, and just have a good time before camp started. The event actually had more than 1,000 people attend, and it got some really good reviews from everybody that went to it.
We challenged our campers this year with many adventurous field trips. As you saw from the video, we offered scuba diving, we went to the escape room, we offered sailing over at the yacht club, we did rock climbing, trips to Six Flags, but we also wanted to deepen the connection as well with the campers, with their community, so we offered service projects, counselors in training, as well as the Spotlighters camp. They spent the whole day at Cradles to Crayon packing backpacks for back-to-school supplies for the less fortunate children. We really wanted to strive for safety this year as well, so we offered 2 swim lessons a week for Camp Sunshine for the 4 and 5-year-olds, and then once a week for the 3-year-olds. The Spotlighters performed at the WNBA, so junior Spotlighters sang the national anthem, which was awesome, and then the senior Spotlighters actually performed at the halftime show. Deer Creek offered tennis lessons for Girls Play Strong Camp, as well as crew camps. And Heller staff offered pond exploration days at Danny Caniff, as well as team sports programs. And a lot of the camps took advantage of Golden Hitta Creek and Rosewood Beach this summer as well. Our staff efforts were definitely apparent through delivery of just our customer service, Inclusion for All, which was 31 campers with partnership with NSSRA, and excellence in just our staff performance.
And then, as we say, summer's coming, so we're getting ready for 2018. We're in the middle of our brochure process right now. Brochures are scheduled to go out end of November, and our registration starts in December for 2018 camp. Some of the improvement that we would like to highlight for 2018 are Camp Sunshine will actually have a garden plot in our community gardens where they'll get to grow fruits and vegetables and then use those fruits and vegetables in a cooking class. Crew camps will start taking ice skating lessons at Centennial Ice Arena. And our Big Top, Little Top camps will start having more, actually 2 field trips per session, 2 for session 1 and 2 for session 2. And our before and after camp will be extended all the way to 7th grade, which was a request from our customers.
This is great.
Questions?
Like as a parent,
Yes.
this is just like, boom, I
Mhm.
found it. Love it. It's good.
That came
Wow.
from our
Looking at-
marketing department,
Yeah.
Liz and her
Very
team.
excellent.
Yeah, really
Kathy, I'm
nice.
looking at the
I like
girls
marketing
play
department.
strong. Kathy, looking at the girls play strong numbers. Wow. Wow.
That's my baby.
That is amazing.
I love it.
Isn't it great?
Congratulations. That's a great.
Yeah, I love that camp.
And also the before and after camp, those numbers have doubled, more than doubled in the last couple of years. What do you attribute that to?
Well, definitely because of the amount of parents that need before and after camp because they work full time. One of the reasons why, like I said, that we are expanding before and after camp all the way to 7th grade is because of customer feedback. More and more parents have just full-time jobs and they need that extra time to be able to keep their kids safe while they're there.
Well, thank you for being flexible.
And we've had great staff
Yeah.
at that camp.
Yeah, thank you for
which-
being flexible to expand that because that's providing a huge benefit to the community. But those girls play strong. I love
Isn't
that.
that awesome? Yeah, Mariana's done a
Congratulations.
nice
Thank
job.
you.
Yeah,
I love that camp.
we noticed.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Of course. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can we sign up for some of these things?
I want to sign up for some of those things.
Liza?
Okay.
I'll probably come back.
Probably.
Probably.
Thank you, everyone. Probably.
So, I can't top the video or the report. I'll just give you the matters at hand. But I do want to report that Sunset Valley Golf Course, in the evening of our workshop meeting, Ryan's report should be that the contractor's finished on October 10th. So now, obviously, the weather has been very challenging, but we're plugging along, so he'll give you the update at the next meeting. And I do want to make note, because someone actually said to me that they went online and saw the aerial of the golf course, and so it's really nice for both the Pogo project and the Sunset Valley project to be able to go to the website and click on projects, and you can really get updates, current updates on what's going on in both of those projects. And as far as the Pogo goes, they're really trying to get a lot of the site work done, the parking lot, all the, on the upper, I want to say the upper bluff, but the upper tier before winter sets in. So we want to have all the site work preparation done. So they're busy doing that now because they've obviously got the 4 walls up. So Amalia will give you an update on October 10th at the workshop meeting then. So in terms of other events and activities, something that we're doing to try and attract more kids to ice skating and gymnastics is we're having a tri-skating and gymnastics day. And we're actually doing this on the Columbus Day holiday from 11 to 12:30 to give kids an opportunity to come in and check out a gymnastics class or an ice skating class, which is really a great idea because I think we were having a conversation today about our indoor pool and trying to inject some life into our Learn to Swim program. So I think these are activities that you'll start seeing more and more of. So beyond that, we're also on that day doing an event at Rosewood. Frankly, we have quite a few events on Columbus Day. So at Heller, there will be an event, I take that back. At Rosewood, there will be an event called Beach Explorers from 1 o'clock to 2:30, so kids can go and hang out at the beach with some organized activities. And then we will also have a day at Deer Creek will be open from 9 to 2:30 for an extensive tennis program. It is almost impossible for me to comprehend that I'm going to report to you on Halloween events. But I am.
Then we're getting closer to the World Series.
Yes, we are. So, starting with, I'm trying to do this in order, chronological order, is on October 20th at Westridge. We have an open house from 5:30 to 7:30, and this is for the little kids, the early childhood participants. They're encouraged to dress up, and then we have some activities in the classrooms. It's actually a very cute event, and it's a very safe and not too scary environment for little ones, as opposed to the experience, which will take place on October 27th from 6:30 to 9:30 at Phantom Manor. You're hired. Better known as Sunset Park. So, and new this year, we are having a fear and beer tent. So there will be some craft beer for the adults while their children are off.
We have dram shop insurance?
Yes, we're all covered. And then on Saturday, October 28th, there will be a Monster Bash at Deer Creek Racket Club from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock. I skipped over at the rec center. There will be Princesses and Superheroes on Friday, October 13th from 5:30 to 7:30. And there's also a trick and swim that evening from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock. So one is for the littler ones and one is for the older kids. So lots to do. Check out the Park District website, pdhp.org, and you can frighten yourself in a number of different ways. Very good.
All right, thank you.
Can I just ask a question about athletics? Is that a part of this? Or is this?
Okay.
No, I just want to know, I know we had the flag football thing, the travel football thing, and then it increased enrollment in flag and then fall baseball, right? The fall baseball clinic, we just haven't done that the last couple of years, or?
That's with the high school. It just was tremendously successful.
Yeah, I
We
mean,
used to- yeah.
I was just looking at the numbers for baseball, and you know my passion for that, it's great.
Also with the increased registration with the fall leagues, kids usually do one or the other, so if you offer both, usually
That
works.
seems not right.
Yeah, wow, that's great.
It's really bad.
That's a,
That's a,
Let me ask you.
yeah, I have to find out.
We had a snafu. Anybody else? I was with Brian this morning who said things were going really well, weather-wise. He was happy this morning.
But it does cause stress, though, the warm weather. But he's always happy. So
Okay, is there a motion to go into?
No, open to the public.
Oh, Mrs. Bernstein, I started and stopped. Do you have any more to say, being our public? Are you sure?
I can't,
Cal's not here, we need someone.
I know, but I can't be too pushy. Not that I just want the hot pool and better lighting, but I'm not going to discuss that.
Okay. Now I'm going to ask for a motion to go into closed session pursuant to the following sections of the Open Meetings Act. Section 2C1, the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline of the district, including legal counsel for the district. Section 2C5, the purchase or lease of real estate, including discussion on whether a certain parcel of property should be acquired. And Section 2C6, the setting of a price for sale or lease of property owned by the district.
I would like to make that motion.
and I would like to second that motion.
Good, 'cause somebody has to. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
No.
Ah.
All right.
You led me to that one.
Commissioner Grossberg,
Aye.
Vice President Runtenberg.
Aye.
President Kaplan.
Aye. All right, we're enclosed.
I have a process question.